Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Venus and this is my last TBR of 2022. So my November was horrible. I literally only finished 2 books. Not because I was in a reading slump or just wasn't in the mood to read. I was literally reading every day and I ended up DNFing like 5 or 6 books. My intention was to read Christmas romance books. That's what I typically do this time of year. But this year I've read so much fantasy and so many thrillers and so many horror books that I've absolutely loved. I guess my reading tastes have just changed. I could not get into any of these Christmas romance books. So my December TBR is looking a lot different than what I thought it would. So let's get into it. 2023, I want to really finish series that I've started. And unfortunately, some of these, it's been a while since I've read some of the books. So I'm trying to get a head start on these series. And I have to reread some of the first books in the series because I'm not going to remember them. So a couple of these are going to be rereads for me. And I think it's a good time to just kind of relax with some rereads so that, you know, it's this time of year where you're busy and my brain might not be able to actually focus too much on really heavy books. So some of these will be rereads. The first book I want to read is Stormfront by Jim Butcher, and this is the first book in the Harry Dresden, or the Dresden Files, and it's about Harry, who is a private investigator. He's a paranormal private investigator, and the setting is in Chicago. I read the first 3 books in the series, and I really had fun. I very much enjoyed them. It's got this like really old school, like private detective feel to it, gritty, like not dark, but like gritty, like almost old school, like mobster vibes. I don't know how to describe it. It's fun though. I very much enjoyed it. I listened to the audiobooks for these. They're narrated by James Marsters, who was a character from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I actually never watched that show, but I know that he was one of the characters in that series. I had fun listening to it. I think I'm actually going to read them this time instead of listening to the audiobooks, just to get a little bit more out of it. Sometimes when I listen to audiobooks, I don't get all of the little details, and I know that as this series progresses, there's a lot of like bigger world opening and building in it, so I want to make sure I'm paying attention to any little nuggets that I might miss along the way. So this is on my December TBR. Another reread for me in December is going to be The Black Echo by Michael Connelly. This is like a crime fiction. This is part of the Bosch series. It's a very long series. I think there's almost like 20 books in it. This first book was published in I think around 1992. So I actually started reading these in high school. And I've always loved them. I kind of stopped reading them for a little while and honestly just forgot about them, and I've never even seen the show. So this series is a show, I think it's on Prime, Amazon Prime, that's doing very, very well. But I just kind of miss reading these. I love books, I used to, hopefully I still do, about like crime and like serial killers and the point of view from the detective and the lawyers are involved and all that stuff. And Michael Connelly used to be a crime beat writer, journalist, and so he has like a very good behind the scenes lens of what it's like to kind of go through like crime, investigating like murders and homicides, and which is literally the same thing. He has a really cool behind the scenes knowledge of, you know, crime scenes and the investigations and what goes on with like the politics behind all of it. And I just remember really much enjoying enjoying reading these books. So I'm looking forward to kind of jumping back into the series and getting caught up next year. There's a spin-off series, the Lincoln Lawyer series, which is from the point of view of one of the lawyers. These mostly take place in Los Angeles because the main character, Harry Bosch, is a Los Angeles PD homicide detective. So I can't wait to jump back into these. They'll definitely hopefully be, that was a lot of words, hopefully be palette cleansers for in between all of the huge fantasy books I plan on reading in 2023. So I can't wait to jump back into this. So the next book is Carrie by Stephen King. One of my goals for 2023 is to read one Stephen King book at least every month or every other month. And some of them will be rereads, and this one I actually have never read. I'm going to read this for the first time. I watched the old movie with Sissy Spacek. I've seen it before, but I rewatched it with my husband and my daughter right around Halloween, and I still enjoyed it. I mean, it's older, but I thought it was really good. I've never seen the remake of it, but I'm interested to see the comparisons between the book and the movie. I was kind of flipping through this, and it almost looks like there's like multimedia in it. I don't know if it's like interviews or there's like book quotes in here. So I don't know. I'm kind of really interested to see how this is different from the movie, if it is at all. Another reason why I wanted to read this is because there is a Carrie retelling written by Tiffany D. Jackson that I want to read next month, and that's called The Weight of Blood. And I want to make sure that I have like knowledge of the original before I read a reread. So Carrie, reading that, it's a quick read. I'll probably listen to it on audiobook, probably take me a couple hours. So I'm excited to jump into a little bit of Stephen King this month. And for those of you who don't know what Carrie is about, Carrie is telekinetic, and she is basically severely bullied in school, and with her powers, a whole bunch of things happen a la Stephen King style, so this is classified as a horror. This next book is a genre I don't typically read a lot of, but I do really enjoy this author's writing, and that is We Are the Light by Matthew Quick. This was my book of the month pick for last month, I believe. I did read one of his other books, The Silver Linings Playbook, a few years ago. I very much enjoyed it. He does a really good job at covering mental health issues in his book. There's a book based on The Silver Linings Playbook with Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence that I also liked a lot. So this book is about Lucas, and he is writing to his therapist. Is that what he's called? He's not called a therapist. He's called a Jungian analyst, which is a different form of therapy. But he's writing letters to him in the aftermath of this major tragedy that's happened in this town. He did lose his wife, and I'm assuming there's going to be some mental health issues, and he also ends up befriending a young man in this town as well called Eli, and they form a very strong bond. So I've seen really good reviews about this. Again, I really like this author's writing style, so this is a quick book too, and it is also available on Scribd, the audiobook, so I'll probably get through this relatively quickly, but I'm excited to read this one. My neighbor's pulling into their house and playing their music very, very loud, so we are waiting for them. Now my dog's barking. It's a whole situation. The next book I want to read in December is also a reread, and that is The Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This book has a sequel. It's coming out on January 9th, I believe. I'll post a picture of it because the cover is really, really cool. So I'm very excited to read the second book, but of course I can't remember what happened in the first one, so need a little refresher. This book is about Alex. She is a woman that's kind of been through some tragic things in her life. She's also the sole survivor of like this mass homicide. Ex-boyfriend was a drug dealer, and she wakes up in the hospital and she's propositioned to attend Yale basically free, but she also has to watch and investigate these occult actions of the secret societies within Yale. So it's really cool. I remember just really enjoying this book. I think this is her first adult book series. I didn't really like the Shadow and the Bone series. I actually DNF'd it. I only read the first book. Just didn't work for me, but I do love this series, so hopefully the second book is just as good, if not better, than the first one. So I highly recommend this if you haven't checked it out. So this next one I remember seeing all over BookTube earlier in the year, Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. It's got pretty good reviews on Goodreads. This is going to be a thriller, and I don't know too much about it. The cover's pretty creepy, though. I don't know. Is he digging a grave? I don't know what's happening. But all I know is the young woman in this, the main character, she, I think, recently got out of rehab. She is like a nanny, almost like I guess basically a live-in nanny for this family. And one of the children draws like these really creepy pictures that progressively get more descriptive and more creepy as the book goes on. The pictures are actually... there's actually pictures in here. Yeah, I don't know. So there's pictures in here. That's cool. I don't know. That's all I know about it, but I did want to throw in a thriller too, kind of mix it up here. You know, I like to read different genres, so I'm excited to read this one. And the last book I am most excited to read is The Heroes by Joe Abercrombie. He has just become one of my favorite fantasy authors. And this book is set in the First Law world. This is the second standalone after the First Law trilogy. I loved Best Served Cold. I loved Best Served Cold. The ending, a little bit, not my favorite, but still, I think I can't remember if I gave it like a 4 or 4.5. I just love his writing. These are grim, dark stories, like I said, set in the First Law world. There's a bunch of characters. I'm not sure what character. I don't know what this one is about at all, to be honest with you. I don't really care because I love Joe Abercrombie. I know I'm going to love it. So It's a chunker. I think I'm going to read this like around Christmas, start reading it around Christmas weekend because I'm off and I don't really plan on doing much except laying around in Christmas PJs sipping on some hot cocoa. I don't know. So I'll probably read it then. It might be the last book of the year that I read. Not sure. Maybe it'll make my top 10. It's definitely possible because I loved all of his books. So those are my plans for December. I don't know. I still might try to read a Christmas romance if I see one that's getting really good reviews, but as of right now, I just have had no luck. So thrillers, fantasy, horror is what I'm sticking to, and crime fiction and a literary fiction. So a little bit of mix of everything to keep me busy. Hopefully I'll be able to get them read. I don't know. Who knows? You know, it's the last TBR of 2022. So that's my December TBR. Thank you as always for hanging out with me. Let me know in the comments below. Have you read any of these? Are you interested in reading any of these? What are you reading for your last TBR of 2022? Can't wait to chat in the comments. If this is your first time here, welcome. I appreciate you. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time. See ya.